It was nearly midnight when Jake Rayner, a single father of two, heard the knock. He was up late, folding laundry in his modest Kansas farmhouse while the wind howled outside, scattering dry leaves across the porch. His son, Eli, was asleep on the couch with a Lego piece still clutched in one small fist, and his teenage daughter Maya had fallen asleep while studying at the dining table. Jake had finally gotten used to the silence that came after bedtime. That silence had become his therapy. But the knock wasn't soft or timid. It was urgent. Desperate. He opened the door without thinking. And she fell into his chest. A young woman, soaked to the bone, trembling from head to toe. Her breath hitched against him, and then she whispered one word, so fragile it barely made it past her lips. "Help me." Jake didn't ask questions. Not at first. He wrapped her in a blanket, guided her to the couch, and gave her a cup of hot tea. Maya stirred awake, wide-eyed, asking if she should call the police. But Jake just shook his head. He'd seen enough in his own life to know when someone wasn't just cold, but broken. The girl's name was Lena. She was 19. A runaway. She'd left home 2 weeks ago to escape her mother's abusive boyfriend, who'd threatened to kill her if she ever told anyone what he'd done. She had tried to make it to Chicago to stay with a cousin who never answered her texts. She'd hitchhiked, slept in bus stations, and walked miles. That night, she had nowhere left to go, and she saw Jake's porch light. "I thought if nobody answered, I'd sleep in your barn," she whispered. "But I couldn't take the cold anymore." Jake listened. Not just with his ears, but with his heart. He knew what fear sounded like. Years ago, before his wife died of cancer, they'd opened their home to foster kids. He'd watched children flinch at loud voices and cry in their sleep. And after she passed, he'd quietly closed that chapter. Until now. The next day, Jake made some calls. Not to the police. Not yet. He reached out to Rachel, a social worker who used to help him and his wife during their fostering days. She still remembered Jake's kind eyes, his firm hands when helping kids out of the car, and how he'd once stayed up all night building a bunk bed for a pair of frightened brothers. "I can place her," Rachel said softly. "But it'll be temporary." Jake hung up and looked at Lena, curled up next to Maya on the couch, laughing quietly over a funny movie. The dark circles under her eyes hadn't faded, but something in her was alive again. He thought of the moment she whispered "help me." And he remembered how his wife used to say, "We don't save people by fixing them. We save them by sitting beside them long enough for them to fix themselves." Jake talked to his kids that night. "Would you be okay if Lena stayed a little longer?" Maya smiled. "She can borrow my room." Eli nodded. "She helped me build a Lego dragon. She's cool." That was it. Lena stayed. Days turned into weeks. She helped with dinners, laughed at Jake's terrible jokes, braided Maya's hair, and even read bedtime stories to Eli. She started school again. Got a job at a bookstore. And for the first time in a long time, she slept without nightmares. But it wasn't just Lena who healed. Jake began to smile more. He found himself humming while making breakfast. He rejoined his church's volunteer group and even started visiting the local youth center. His heart had been sleeping. Lena's knock had woken it. One rainy afternoon, Jake found a letter on his nightstand. It was from Lena. "I didn't come to your house expecting to live. I just wanted one warm night before the cold took me. But you didn't just give me warmth, you gave me back my dignity. You showed me that kindness doesn't ask for anything in return. I used to think the world was cruel. But then I met your family. Thank you for opening the door. Thank you for not asking why." Jake folded the letter and pressed it to his chest. He whispered to himself, "Thank you for knocking." Epilogue. Years later, Lena became a social worker. On her first day, she wore a small bracelet with tiny wooden beads, one that Eli had made her back when she was still learning how to breathe again. Jake attended her graduation with pride bursting from his chest. And every year, on the anniversary of that cold night, the Rayner family left their porch light on just a little brighter than usual. Just in case someone else needed to knock. Sometimes, the door you open for someone else becomes the path that leads you home. One act of compassion can echo through generations. Always answer the knock. You might just be saving more than one life.